I was reminded of a story the other day in my life. It didn't happen to me, but happened to a really close friend of mine. This close friend of mine tragically lost her father in high school to an illness. And she was telling kind of the pain of experiencing that and the situation it kind of put her family into. Not only is it tragic to lose a parent, obviously, but also a provider of the family. And she told this amazing story of how someone in their church community very generously paid off her mother's mortgage in the wake of her father's death. And that story in and of itself is amazing. And as my friend tells it, when they found out who this woman was, who desired to stay anonymous, she was not a woman of great means. She was not, this wasn't necessarily an easy check for her to write, which was quite amazing. And that in and of itself would be an amazing story, and it is. But I also know what that generosity sparked for my friend's mom and my friend herself. I know that that story of generosity made a huge mark on how they saw their own mortgages, their own real estate, and actually, my friend's mom, has been able to help buy rental properties and other properties that they have been able to use for ministry. And these are some of the most generous people I know. And if you sit around long enough and talk with them, they will tell you this story. And they will tell you that part of the reason that they are such cheerful givers, or that they are happy to let the giving continue, is because someone started with this unexpected generosity. They have a property. You're talking about someone gifting you a property up north. They have a property that they own that in part they were able to get to make as a retreat for other people because of the legacy that started with that unexpected gift. When I think about that story, I think about how generosity and our love towards others has a multiplicative effect sometimes.
It really wasn't. We weren't gifted property. It was just we were able to spend the day.
Oh, yeah, no, I get that. It's similar to the up north is what I was making the connection with. But it's got a multiplicative effect. And that got me thinking about the Jesus story that we are going to share tonight. Tonight is a candle. I wish I had Remy and Thea up here to back me up and say love every time they came into the Jesus story. That was awesome. But carrying on in that theme of love, I was thinking about this story from Jesus' life where he gets a dinner invitation and it gets disrupted in an unexpected, generous way. And he tells a story about someone paying debts. So that's the Jesus story that I want to look at tonight. It comes to us in Luke chapter 7, and it's a longer one, so I'm going to read through it. And as we read through it, think of the questions that we ask around the table. What's standing out to you, and what difference would this make in your life? Because this is quite an amazing story. Let's read it together. This is Luke, again, chapter 7, verses 36, if you have an app you want to read along with. I'm reading from the NIV. One of the Pharisees, this was like the religious elite of the day, asked Jesus to have dinner with him. Whenever the Pharisees did this, these would be kind of public dinners. Even though they were in the private space, they would kind of be open-air dinners, open to the public on the street. He invited Jesus to have dinner with him. So Jesus went to his home and sat down to eat. When a certain, my translation says, immoral woman from the city heard he was eating there, she brought a beautiful alabaster jar filled with expensive perfume. Then she knelt behind him at his feet, weeping. Her tears fell on his feet, and she wiped them off with her hair. Then she kept kissing his feet and putting perfume on them. Just pause a moment and try to take in this visual image. Can you imagine if that happened right now and someone started washing your feet in that way? That would be, I realize there's a modern difference. That would be even more awkward because we don't have these rituals. but it was still quite a shocking event when this happened. When the Pharisees who had invited him saw this, he said to himself, "If this man were a prophet, he would know what kind of woman is touching him. She is a sinner." Then Jesus answered his thoughts. I love that. Jesus does that to me sometimes. Jesus answered his thoughts. "Simon," he said to the Pharisee, "I have something to say to you." "Go ahead, teacher," Simon replied. Then Jesus told him this story. You know, Jesus, "I've got something to say to you," and then he tells the story. "A man loaned money to two people, 500 pieces of silver to one and 50 pieces to the other. But neither of them could repay him. So he kindly forgave them both, canceling their debts. Who do you suppose loved him more after that?" Simon, having multiple degrees in logic, said, I added that part, said, "I suppose the one whom he canceled the larger debt." "That's right," Jesus said. Then he turned to the woman, he turned to the woman and said to Simon. Did you catch that? He turned to the woman and said to Simon, "Look at this woman kneeling here. When I entered your home, you didn't offer me water to wash the dust off my own feet, but she has washed them with her tears and wiped them with her hair. You didn't greet me with a kiss, but from the time I came in, she has not stopped kissing my feet. You neglected the courtesy of olive oil to anoint my head, but she has anointed my feet with rare perfume. I tell you, her sins, and they are many, have been forgiven. So she has shown much love. But a person who is forgiven little shows only little love." Then Jesus said to the woman, "Your sins are forgiven." The men at the table said among themselves, "Who is this dude that he goes around forgiving sins?" Implicitly, that's our job. That's the Levite's job. That's not his job. And Jesus says to the woman, "Your faith has saved you. Go in peace." It's a remarkable story, isn't it? It's one that I return to often. And why I was thinking about it this week, it's not a Christmas story, but it's a story about love. And I think in that verse 47, Jesus makes an interesting claim about the relationship between forgiveness and love. And it really got me thinking this week, and got me thinking with some questions that maybe I just want to offer for your time, or maybe it raises questions for you. On a fundamental level, what's the relationship between forgiveness and love? And how do the two intersect with each other? If the amount of forgiveness that we experience has potential to enhance our ability to love, and this is maybe more of a personal question, but I'll offer it to you, then why am I or we so reluctant to seek forgiveness? In this story, Jesus is really clearly making the point, obviously, that people respond with great love when they've been forgiven much. But if you think about it deeper, it's also an invitation to reimagine seeking forgiveness. We often think of forgiveness as the most uncomfortable thing to ask for, the hardest thing to ask for. But I think there's an invitation, making this woman the hero of the story and saying that she, because she's been forgiven much, has great potential. There's a multiplicative effect to love and forgiveness in her life. This got me thinking about our mission statement, to love our neighbors in the way of Jesus. And in maybe a far too brash way, I found myself thinking, are we more comfortable loving in the ways that the Pharisees were comfortable loving in? Or are we comfortable being in a position where we've been forgiven much? And Also, there was an invitation or a question to explore my hesitancy to seek forgiveness and explore my tendency to maybe cover over some of the parts of my past that I don't like to talk about. And as I think about that, I can see how her experience of forgiveness, her experience of someone taking her story and welcoming her in and celebrating her and not excluding her, gives her the passion and the fuel to love even more deeply. So I wonder, maybe turning the question to our tables or to you, is there a hesitancy to seek forgiveness? Is there a hesitancy to forgive? And maybe there's an invitation to be received in this Christmas season from Jesus, that the degree to which, or maybe it's not an equal thing as much as it is, our capacity to receive forgiveness greatly influences our capacity to love. Maybe something to sit with and explore what stands out to you from this story. Is that true of your own experience? Do you, like me, sometimes find a hesitancy in yourself to seek forgiveness? Do you also find that when you do, it unlocks a greater capacity to love and have empathy for others? What difference do you think that reality that Jesus is talking about makes in our lives, and particularly our lives as people who are trying to love our neighbors in the way of Jesus? So let's chat around your tables. What stands out to you? What are you thinking about? What difference do you think this might make?